For today's episode of EyeSwoon Unplugged, I'm going to make my favorite winter meal in existence, which is a beef stew. I grew up eating beef stew all the time. I'm kind of a meat and potatoes kind of gal, but recently I saw the new Julia Childs documentary at the East Hampton Film Festival. My friend Justin produced it, and it was so incredible. I fell in love with Julia Childs all over again. I feel like I have some sort of kinship to her after kind of hearing her story again and feeling as though there's a lot of synergy between each of us both finding food and finding career much later in life. I mean, she was so funny, so driven, so passionate about food, had the most incredible marriage that also was so inspiring, and really stood for things she believed in, like Planned Parenthood at a time when not many people were stepping up and being vocal about that, and also was kind of the first person to ever pull chefs together to raise money for AIDS. So she inspires me so much, and I felt the need to make a beef bourguignon, which she's probably most famous for. But growing up, when I would eat a beef stew, it was always mushy and one-noted and kind of brown. And I stumbled upon Susan Spungen's recipe from her cookbook. And what I loved about her technique and her process was that she roasts the vegetables in the oven separate and gets them nice and crispy and caramelized, and then composes it together when she plates it with the stew. So I'm very much taking inspiration from Susan. Thank you. As always, a stew or a braise is always better the next day. So try to make it 1 or 2 days before you want to serve it, and build in at least 3 hours because it cooks in the oven for 2.5 to 3 hours. I'm gonna hop in the kitchen and take you through the process right now. The most important step when you are making a beef stew is to season your meat properly and to brown it properly. Kosher salt. I have a Staub pot. I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 1 tablespoon of butter. So I'm gonna sear these in 2 batches because if I put all of them in at once, they are never going to get that beautiful golden sear, and that's what builds flavor. All right, these have been going around 4 minutes. All right, next batch. I have the onion. I peeled the onion. I kept the root intact. I'm gonna do these slices vertically, almost to the root, but not quite, because I want to keep everything still attached. So basically fanning it out, but it's still attached at the root. Then I'm going to take my knife and horizontally slide it through. So then when I do these very fine slices, you're already getting these cubes. That is the easiest way to cut an onion. So we're gonna do about 5 garlic cloves. But to get the skin off of your garlic, put your knife down, smash down. Kind of releases the skin. We want these to soften. We'll probably leave them in for about 10 minutes or so. Getting all that delicious flavor from the meat. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Just gonna let that kind of meld the flavors for about 3 minutes or so. At this point, guys, I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons of flour and sprinkle it over our meat. This is really what's going to allow the sauce to thicken. 1 bottle of wine, fresh thyme, a few bay leaves, also gonna add some beef stock. I'm gonna do 1.5 cup of beef stock. You could also use water. We've built so much flavor already that if you don't have a stock, no fret. Literally just use water. I'm going to put about 1 teaspoon of salt in. I really want this to cook down with the flavor. Okay, I'm gonna pop this in an oven, 325 degrees. It's gonna go in for 3 hours total. Well, at first I'm gonna have the lid on and sealed shut. After 1.5 hours, I'm gonna take the lid and kind of open it ever so slightly so that the sauce can thicken. If you leave the cover on the entire time, it's just gonna steam and create more moisture. But the goal for that second 1.5 hours is to let some of the steam out so that the sauce can get thicker and more robust in flavor. I have my carrots and my potatoes. I have about 12 ounces of shallots, and I chose smaller ones because I want them to almost be like little bite-sized pieces. I also have 1 bunch of carrots that I've cut into kind of vertical thin pieces, like so. And then I have these small potatoes, about 8 ounces of potatoes. So I've raised the temperature of my oven to 425. I'm going to roast these. I'm going to then add our mushrooms. This is some beautiful maitake mushrooms. I have kind of 3 heads, which comes to about 14 ounces. And then I also have some shiitake mushrooms as well. Olive oil, salt, pepper, and I'm gonna toss a little bit of fresh thyme in there as well. I'm gonna prep our maitake mushrooms now. I'm just gonna take the root off. You probably noticed that the sheet pan for all the veg was quite crowded, so you never want to overcrowd your pan. So I'm going to roast the mushrooms on a separate sheet pan. Okay, these are out of the oven. They are nice and golden and sizzling. We have our stew. I'm gonna kind of put it over to one side a little bit. We've got all that amazing juices. Just haphazardly place the veg, some of our mushrooms. All right, I have some fresh Italian parsley. I'm just gonna give a little sprinkle. And then I happen to really love the way any type of citrus is over meat because it brightens the flavors. So I have a little bit of orange, just a little flaky sea salt,